All right, so are you a freelance writer and you've been trying to pitch and do a whole bunch of things and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't quit for your job for this. I didn't mean to quit my job for this. Oh my goodness, it's becoming a big headache. So when people talk about freelance freedom, they usually mean time or money. But what if you're working all the time again, just at home? So let me guess, you left your 9 to 5 to have more control, more freedom, but now your calendar is a mess and you're taking on projects that drain you. I would often slip into this by being excited by all the leads I was getting and saying yes, and then they hire me and are giving me content briefs. Oopsie, now my week is full. I can't work on my passion projects and I'm bogged down by all this work. This has happened to me time and time again. I did not become a freelance writer to be strapped behind the laptop 50 hours a week. I've been there. And I realized I didn't quit my job for this. Now, the real problem, you are working too much in the business and not on the business. So here's a LinkedIn post of a freelancer answering a question about what is freelance writing. So Divya says, it's highly critical work on your business. And when freelance writers ask me what that means, this is it. You're looking at the big picture, not just in terms of where the business is going, but also what kind of life you're creating through your business. Now, this is key. It is the foundation of my business, of why I want it to start. And for many people, it is. You don't want to work a full-time job or work those hours, those crazy hours, and be away from your family. You want to stay present in your family's life and you want to do what you want to do. Maybe you have a disability or chronic pain and you just want to be able to work when and how you want. These are all valid points of why you quit your job. But for some people, and for me, in the past, it has become this thing that I started to really dislike and not want to do. I would rather write a blog post on my blog than write my client piece. I would rather write a newsletter for my audience than my client piece. I would rather do a YouTube video than my client piece. I would be getting into that space because I was overwhelmed, because I said yes to too many clients because of that. And I know there are writers that are like that right now. And so what ends up happening is you're just too busy chasing jobs to build something sustainable. So you start to resent the idea of I just have to keep on chasing more jobs. I need another client. I need another client. Saying yes to everything makes you lose control over how you want to work. This is my thing. This is what I end up doing. I love when clients come to me and I want to say yes and I want to work with them, especially if they're notable brands, especially if they're in my niche. This would be great on my portfolio. I would love this. And I would say yes and yes and yes. And then I'd get bogged down. You've unintentionally recreated the same grind you wanted to escape. Now, client work is constant, but there's no space for strategy, growth, or values. And yes, I do fall into this camp often. It hasn't been lately. I've been really good at setting some non-negotiables. And so we're going to talk about, some things that you should do that I've been working on. But let's go back to why you actually quit, right? You wanted more presence with your family. You wanted more room to rest. You wanted more choice, right? To say no or yes to projects that don't align. And you wanted to build something on your terms. Maybe you do want to be a content creator. Maybe this is the start of writing your own books, selling your own products, and also working with clients. Maybe upskilling your skills to be a content editor, content marketer for businesses then, and having a content strategist, doing those things based on your freelance writing. A lot of people that I interview for gigs, they tell me their stories as an entrepreneur, and they started out as freelancing, and then they quickly grew into what they are right now. Okay, so it could be a stepping stone. But what ends up happening is that you don't want to hustle forever just to survive. I don't know if you follow other OG freelance writers out there on LinkedIn or on YouTube, but I can probably guarantee that those OG freelancers, because they've been around for so many years, that they're not hustling and they're not in their business 8 hours a day, every day kind of thing, unless they really want to. But this is challenging when you want to work, when you need money, and when you love writing. That was sort of my dilemma. I wanted work when I first started. I needed money because I didn't want my husband to, fund everything for myself and the twins that we had when they were little too. And so I would often slip into this mindset and then get extreme anxiety and not want to write anymore. It took me some time to stop this way of thinking and working and start having the freelance writing business that I love and look forward to. I did go hot and cold with my business For some time, there was a period of time, and it all relates to a lot of stress in my family and what's going on in my life. But, I've learned to sort of iron those out, and they're less and less over time. So no matter what stage you're in, so if you're just trying to find your niche, if maybe you're taking one of my courses, if you're sourcing jobs, if you're pitching, negotiating, maybe you're doing research or the writing phase, you need to pause and think about the type of freelance writing business you want. So here are 5 things to help you with that. And I did talk about this non-negotiable thing. And this is key for me. It took me a while to really figure this out, but you need to define your non-negotiables. Start a list of things you will not do or have. For example, I don't work on client work on the weekends, but that is fairly new. For many years, I did not have any non-negotiables. It was all whatever the client wanted, I did. If they wanted to reach me at 12 o'clock at night as I'm going to bed or whatever, then that's fine. I will respond quickly. Like I was so eager. I was an eager beaver when I first started, and I did not have any non-negotiables, but I burnt out pretty quickly. All the work that came to me and all that, I burnt out. I had to start working on these non-negotiables. And one of them was no work on the weekends. Like for me, I didn't want to sit at my computer on a beautiful Saturday day while my, family was around and stuff, for sure. Some other non-negotiables I had was I end my work when my kids come home from school. Now, summers are a little bit different. I work around my kids' schedules during the summer, but I set my work hours during their school hours. And these are non-negotiables for me so that I'm not just working in my business. Some other ones that you can have if you want for your business could include, no meetings or phone calls on Friday. A lot of people take Fridays off. I haven't done that. It's just my weekends. Choose clients and topics you actually enjoy. Now, in the beginning, you may not have that choice. You might just want to get any job that comes to you or that you pitch to. But once you sort of hone down your niche and figure out the type of clients you like, then you start writing for those clients and topics that you actually enjoy. Never drop below your minimum rate, even for easy jobs. This is a little bit hard for me to ascribe to because I may drop my rate a bit for some clients, like big brands and all that, because I do value that having a byline on their blog, having it in my portfolio will lead to bigger clients that will pay me more. That is my experience and it has worked, but this could be a non-negotiable for you. You can block out regular time for passion projects, skill development, or just improving your business. So, maybe every morning from 8 to 9, maybe you just want to do yoga and then work on something that you want to accomplish. It could be reading more, or it could be some online passion project. It could be knitting. It could be something like that. The next thing is you want to shift your service model. So this might mean moving away from, let's say maybe you come from, established work. So you work on an hourly rate, but in the freelance world, you want to switch that to maybe you want to do something more like a value-based rate where each project is rated differently. One client I may ask for this much money and another client I might ask for this much money based on the topics, based on what they want from me. Now, one-off rates may be better suited to your lifestyle than having retainers. Now, personally, I enjoy like ad hoc clients that just come to me out of the blue and want something. I'm fine with that. And clients who want weekly or bi-weekly content for a set time, I'm fine writing for them for a weekly for, let's say, for 1 quarter because they need to wrap up their content for the last quarter of the year kind of thing. I'm okay to be a part of that. So before you start freelance writing or you want to start pitching, think about your schedule and how you want to put freelance writing into that schedule. So I do have a blog post here on my blog called Time Management Tips as a part-time freelance writer plus schedules, because that is what I am sort of ascribing to you when I tell you about my resources, that I do this part-time because I am a mom. And so I had to find the time for all of this. And so I even have a video here, but I have some more tips here, but down the post, I have some schedules. So let's say you only have 5 hours to write, or just 5 hours for your freelance writing business because you're busy, right? You haven't quit your full-time job maybe, or you're a busy mom and you just have little times and little pockets. This is what I do. So my non-negotiable is not working on the weekends. So I set a schedule for not working on the weekends, especially for parents. That's probably a non-negotiable for them. But this is what a typical week would look like on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So like on Monday, maybe you're outlining a blog post idea for a sample. And then on the next block before lunch, you're working on leads. And then maybe you have housework or whatever you need to do, and then have dinner. So it might be something like that. Or you're finishing the blog post, you're going to publish on a platform. Maybe you are going to spend 30 minutes on just sourcing jobs and pitching to them. And then you're going to do some housework and then dinner kind of thing. So that's something that you can feasibly do. Maybe do most of your work when your kids are napping and do those critical things of sourcing jobs, pitching, and writing. If you have 10 hours a week, then this is a schedule that might work for you as well. So you might really hone down on, guest posting, building up your LinkedIn profile, building up those brands on your business. So on LinkedIn, on X, having your own blog, things like that, or writing on Medium, and then pitching. So that might be something. And then maybe you want to start thinking of other ways to make money. So you're writing an affiliate post and dabbling in affiliate marketing. This is where you might have some time for that. Or maybe you want to start a newsletter on Substack, something like that. Now, if you have 20 hours a week, this is sort of like the part-time freelance writer. This is something that I do. So it's based on what my schedule is. And usually I do most of my work in the morning before lunch. And then I have lunch, and then it's like mom mode. I'm doing the laundry and finishing up on tasks and things like that. But I really focus right when the kids go to school is I do tasks. So I might update my portfolio. I might create more portfolios on different sites. I might write an affiliate post. I might reach out to brands, and I might guest post. At this stage of my business, I have built a brand. I recently got a call. Someone wanted to hire me for writing. And so in our call, this person said, "I see your name everywhere." So that tells me that what I built over a decade of this shows that, yeah, I am everywhere. But I did that strategically when I first started. I wanted to have multiple portfolios, not just on my blog. I wanted to have a newsletter. I wanted to write guest posts. All that stuff just grows your brand, makes you be everywhere kind of thing. All right. Then I would do mom mode and then dinner, and then that was it. When you start shifting that service model, you want to also think about your schedule and how that would accommodate you. You might really focus on blog posts because you have the time to write those blog posts, or maybe you don't have a lot of time. So you want to write shorter pieces of content like emails or email funnels or things like that, or ads. That is shorter writing, but it involves a little bit more research and more thinking about this because you need sort of like a copywriting background. So you're going to really focus on certain types of copy. But if that is easier for you than writing a 3,000 word blog post every week, then maybe that would be the model that you would aspire to. You're going to qualify clients differently. All right. So if you don't want to work and pitch and be in your business for like 50 hours a week kind of thing, then qualify those clients differently than what you were doing. For many years, I just waited for the clients to ask me questions about my business. So any interview that I got from them or any email, I would just wait till they asked me some questions. I never asked about like their content schedule or about their keyword process or how they edit or how they pay or anything. I was so new to it. I was like, whatever they say, I will agree to. But nowadays, after having many clients, after doing this for a decade, I know that it's a non-negotiable for me that each client must provide a content brief. If I don't get a content brief, I will not work for them. I have been burned by clients many times. Just as an example, one client did not have a content brief and just asked me, can you give me, and didn't even have a content schedule. They just said, give me some topics that you want to write about for our blog. Well, this is a new client. I've never read their thousands of blog posts on their blog, right? So I can only guesstimate the things that they want to do. Nowadays with ChatGPT, you can sort of, plug in that business blog and then get some content gaps. But at that time, I didn't really have that tool with me. So I would just randomly think of things that I want to write about that I didn't see too much on their blog. But this would go on and on. This person would say no to these 5 and I have to do another 5. And then this person might do yes to 2. And then I would have to beef that out and think of an outline. And then they would say, oh, I don't like that. Think of another topic. It would go on and on. And so client like that didn't have a content brief, didn't have a strategy, didn't understand the importance of that. So now I write for clients to have a content brief. And many clients nowadays realize that they do need a content brief if they're going to hire writers. It just makes the process so much easier. I get to know exactly what they want, what keyword they want to focus on, and what they want in their content and what it's for. Is it for email signups? Is it for going to their YouTube channel? What is it for? Is it just for social media? I need to know. Another thing is you need to get out of the scarcity mindset and get into the abundance mindset. Now, this was hard for me to really overcome, especially when I wasn't getting leads or my cold pitches just weren't leading to good gigs, right? This is all back in the day when I was trying to, grow my freelance writing business. I was trying to set a rate that was cheaper than other writers, thinking it would be a no-brainer for a client to hire me. If the standard rate at that time was, let's say 10 cents a word, well, then I would just say, I'll do for 8 cents a word. And that was like in the first couple weeks of writing. Once I landed a client and they told me their rate was 10 cents a word, well, then I knew that was a standard and I was going to stick with that and go up from there. But before that, like I said, I was so green. I was so new. I didn't know what a good rate was. And it wasn't until I honed down my niche to SaaS businesses that I really got into the abundance mindset. So I started to raise my rates right away once I found out, okay, 10 cents sort of is the norm for this type of business. I'm going to go up to 12 cents, 15 cents, and over time. But it wasn't until I really worked with SaaS businesses that my rate doubled and jumped for me. And now I know my value as a writer to the client. I know what I can bring. Any inquiries I get nowadays, it's because they see my name everywhere. They see my writing on a site like Beehive, and they know the type of value they're going to get when they hire me, kind of thing. If you're new, you may not have that. That's why, as you start your freelance writing business, you really need to start on sort of the samples and brand building and just getting on social media and just starting that process and then working your way up from that. Of course, you don't have to. You can just start pitching right away, but you might not see some success. And also built-in white space. You need to build in that white space, and that's just time for thinking, for resting, for planning, not just working. My white space is my content creator business. It's my twins mommy blog. It's my digital products. It's other things that I'm interested in. That is my white space. And I've learned that I value that more and more. And so I do have time for my white space, but then there are seasons of my life that I want to focus on freelance writing. So I'll have less white space and more freelance writing, and that's fine. I like that ebb and flow of my business. Now, you may not want that. You may just need a block of time for you're going to the gym and then maybe doing a mommy meetup with your friends and just have those little pockets of time, but build those out in your schedule. And I was just going to take a look at this. So for example, there are times in my workday that I'm not productive. And one of those times is right before I have a Google Meet with a potential new client. I am mindlessly scrolling LinkedIn. I am changing my outfit 3 times. I am getting a drink. I'm running around. I am also thinking about what I want to say, but then I blank out at times. Like I'm just running around all this stuff and I'm not productive. And people who responded are the same. This is so relatable. This highlights how virtual meetings aren't just the time they take up on the actual call. I always need a buffer before and after. Hope it goes well. This person says, been there. What helps me is a template for client interview questions and a big sticky note on my screen that says, talk slow and listen more. I'm the same. I had a successful meeting with a new client the other day and I was useless for 2 to 3 hours prior. Boom. A lot of people have this. I wasn't really nervous, but I had zero focus. I told my wife that I needed to book these calls at the beginning of the day, not in the middle of that noon. So that's what I mean, where you might not be as productive. If that's the case, then do something like what you would do during a built-in white space opportunity. Might be reading a book and things like that. For me, I was pretty productive until like the last 10 minutes waiting for the person to show up. So it's not like I had a whole bunch of time. And afterwards, I was fine because I scheduled it so that I can have lunch and decompress and then go back to work for an hour or two before, the end of the day kind of thing for me. Because my day ends early, like around 1, 2, 3. Right on there, depending on what day it is. All right. So that's what I mean by having to be productive and have these built-in white space opportunities so that you are not overwhelmed so much. And some people don't, but they've learned over time, schedule it in the morning. Make sure that you add that to your overall rate because it's not just the call, it's before and after, as Jessica said in one of her comments. All right. So you want to have that freelance writing business that you want, right? How are you going to accomplish that? There are some resources that I have for you. So if you're struggling finding work and just bogged down, know that there's help. I have this free daily checklist. Now the video before this dives deep into this actual resource and the link is there. I'll try and put it in the link down below as well. I have a free e-course called Get Paid to Write over on elnakane.com. It's right here on the homepage. Just put your first name and email and hit the button and you'll get your first lesson soon. Or if you want to make that official leap, you can sign up to my comprehensive course, Write Your Way to Your First 1K. It is my flagship course for freelance writers and it has helped thousands of writers. And it comes with a private Facebook group where you can ask questions and ask me questions and all of that. So it's a great resource to have. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions about these tasks that I've specified in here to help you, not just live in your business, but to work on your business. All right. And otherwise, like this video, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in this video that talks about the daily checklist to 10K a month. All right. There you go.